We want to start off talking with Derrell Peel, our livestock marketing specialist, about the Cargill plant closing in Texas, a pretty major beef processing plant. How did the industry react?
Well, it's always a shock when these things happen in terms of exactly when and where it's going to take place. And so the markets, the futures markets in particular, initially reacted pretty negatively. I think it'll be relatively short-lived in terms of the overall market impacts. This plant is a big plant. There's about 26 of these big plants among the 4 biggest packers in the U.S. So this one plant, and sizes vary a little bit, but this one plant probably represents roughly 3 to 4% of feedlot or fed steer and heifer slaughter capacity in the U.S. We knew we had excess capacity, so this helps bring capacity back into line with availability. I don't think it's going to necessarily make prices a lot lower, because there will be plenty of demand in the remaining capacity for the number of animals that we expect to produce in feedlots this year. Now,
you mentioned capacity. Did the industry experts sort of expect this to happen?
There's been some pressure in terms of excess feedlot and packing capacity for many years, and certainly in the last few months, the last several months, we have talked about the likelihood that we would see on the packing side at least one of the major plants go offline. We could even see another one potentially go offline in the next 12 to 24 months. So it's not really a surprise. It's always a bit of a surprise in terms of who's actually going to make that decision and when and where it'll take place. But the fact that it did happen is not at all a surprise.
Okay, so possibly more then?
It's possible. We still probably have some excess capacity in the industry relative to cattle numbers for the next 2 to 4 years.
Okay. The drought, of course, huge impact on the cattle industry. Let's talk about hay production and sort of what the latest crop estimates are and what the situation is there.
USDA recently released their annual crop production summary, and that included, the hay production and the stocks number. USDA measures hay stocks twice a year, but the most recent one was on December 1st. And with a significantly lower 2012 hay production in the U.S. because of the drought, December 1, total hay stocks in the U.S. is at an extremely low level. It's the lowest total U.S. stock level for December 1 since 1957. So, 2 years of drought have critically reduced supplies. In Oklahoma, we've had low December 1 stocks the last 2 years. The 2012 number was actually fractionally higher than 2011, but both of those numbers were the lowest we've seen since 1984 in Oklahoma. So again, what's becoming more and more apparent is that forage supplies are extremely tight around the country, and you combine that with the fact that we ended last fall with the last pasture and range report showing that over half of the country had poor and very poor range conditions. With these limited hay stocks, it means that we're rapidly running out of resources in terms of being able to maintain cattle production.
Okay, and obviously it's going to get better or it's going to get worse. You kind of got to prepare for both.
That's right. I mean, it's wintertime right now. The drought conditions, if they persist, then things will get worse. When we get to what should be spring and we don't have spring, then things will get worse, and it will be very critical very quickly for a lot of producers. If we get moisture and moderate these drought conditions, then things will improve. And we'll pick up from where we are and try to go back to rebuilding things a little bit and getting back on track.
Okay, and final word of advice for producers with all this in mind?
Well, again, we're a long ways into this drought. Lots of folks have relatively limited flexibility yet, but I guess the main thing that I would remind producers is that ultimately surviving the drought is not a question of how many cows you manage to hang on to. It's really more important that you maintain enough equity in your business so that you have something to rebuild with when this is all over. So, if that little person inside you is telling you you really need to get rid of some more animals, you need to go ahead and make that decision sooner rather than later before you completely drain all your resources.
Okay, good advice. Derrell Peel, our livestock marketing specialist.